Jaya Rama Rava Kanda Hare Jaya Rama Rava Kanda Hare Gopi Dhanavallabha Kivadare Gopi Dhanavallabha Kivadare Yashara Nandana Vajjana Ranjana Yashara Nandana Vajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Rama Rava Kanda Hare Jaya Rama Rava Kanda Hare Gopi Dhanavallabha Kivadare Gopi Dhanavallabha Kivadare Yashara Nandana Vajjana Ranjana Yashara Nandana Vajjana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Rama Rava Kanda Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Nitya Haribo Haribo takaliva. Nitai Guru Premanandi Shri Prabhupada Ki Samavita Bhaktivinoda Ki Guru Premanandi. Hare Krishna. Maybe everybody wants to move a little closer so I can reach you and see you and connect with you. Om Agyantimandasya Gyananjalasalakaya Chakshunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupisam Stapitam Yena Vuttale Swayam Upakaramayam Nanati Swavadantikam Namam Vishnupada Krishabhasa Vuttali Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Govani Pajoyne Nivishesha Shunivari Pasadari Satarine Vanshakapa Dvibasha Kripa Sanvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Go Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So thank you very much for allowing me to one more time share a few little thoughts and insights with all of you. So I'm sure we all had a blissful weekend. I wasn't able to take much part in the Kirtan Mela. I was busy with all different house programs and so on. But main thing is we are absorbed. Whether we are absorbed this way or that way in preaching and chanting, the main thing is the absorption. And I definitely was absorbed. Okay, so I was invited to give a topic-related Bhagavatam class. And the topic is prajalpa. Prajalpa, it will destroy this movement. Actually, on the last ILS, I was giving this presentation in Mayapur, ISKCON Leadership Sangha. So yeah, and people found it quite interesting. So yeah, so for this morning we have that topic. And actually this title, Prajalpa, it will destroy this movement. This is a statement by Prabhupada. And the way I understand it is not that he is making a prediction that this will happen, but no, it's more like a warning that if we don't, curb this tendency of talking prajalpa, it has the power to destroy this movement. Because it is in fact like this, that the main dangers for Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement come from within. They don't come from outside. So the attacks from outside, they usually unite the devotees in preaching and fighting against these attacks. But from within, this is just so destructive. Yes. So let us get a few little insights into this topic. So first of all, let us have some Shastric references. Nectar of Instruction, Adhyapaya Sashcha, Prajalpa Niyamagraha. So there we have the prajalpa. So Rupa Goswami is warning us that our devotional service is spoiled if we become too entangled in talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. So of course, unnecessarily, we always think it is necessary. We don't consider our prajalpa as unnecessary. So that's the problem. And then we also have Nectar of Instruction, verse 1, Vacho Vegam Manasakhoda Vegam, Jiva Vegam Uda Upasta Vegam. So again, we get this warning that this urge of the tongue has to be controlled. As we know, tongue, belly, genitals are in one line. So it all starts with the tongue. And the tongue is known to be the most ferocious sense. So, and we all know tongue has these two functions, to eat, to talk. So in both functions we tend to overdo it. Then we overeat, pretty common thing, And actually we can say Krishna is so tricky that actually it is said only after 20 minutes of eating we realize how full we are. So in the first 20 minutes when we eat, we think, oh, I can have more. Oh yes, there's still some room in my stomach. But then later, we realize, oh, I ate too much. So I think we all have that experience. And it's interesting to understand that when we eat too much, no matter how nutritious the food may be, if we eat too much, we will not digest it, and it develops toxins in the gross body, and we easily get sick. So, and the same thing is there also in talking too much, When we talk too much, unnecessary, mundane subject matters, this also creates toxins in the subtle body. Yes. It switches on the mundane mind. And we can understand the holy name, for example, carries an echo called Vani. And, well, we just had a kirtan mela here, so maybe you had that experience, that after the kirtans, we have this nice warm feeling in the heart, and we feel like, oh, let me go on the rooftop and chant maybe some extra rounds or something. So this echo, which the holy name carries, still keeps working on the heart even after we stop chanting. So, but what destroys this echo immediately is prajalpa. So that's why I thought, yes, this topic, it was not my choice for this morning class. I gave a whole list of topics, and I don't know, somebody chose it. So I thought, yeah, this actually fits quite nicely, that after Kirtan Mela. So let's remind ourselves, that we don't want to destroy this echo, which is still working on our heart here after being absorbed for the whole weekend in chanting. So we don't want to destroy this by this unnecessary talk. Yes, so we of course have all heard this so many times, that prajalpa has to be avoided. It's nothing new, right? We know it all, but yet we don't realize how much of our daily talk actually falls into that category. Yes. So that's why I think there's no harm in reminding us ourselves again and again, because there's more and more subtle aspects to it, and so on. So no harm to hear these things again and again, And also, Srila Prabhupada was very strong about this point, that this prajalpa is such a detrimental obstacle in our devotional development. So there are a few nice episodes in the book, The Transcendental Adventure, which describes Prabhupada's pastimes in Australia and New Zealand, written by Kurma Prabhu. Very nice book, actually. I'm not sure if it is still in print, but if you can get a copy, oh, so nice. Kurma Prabhu is known as a very expert cook, right? Yes, he's famous. I actually joined in Australia, so he was there. So I remember cutting up the vegetables in the kitchen when he was cooking the Sunday feast. So I know him quite well. Yeah, so, and his writing is just as palatable as his cooking. Yes. So many minute little details he captures, and you really feel you are right there with Prabhupada, Yeah, quite amazing. So anyway, he shares these episodes with Upendra Prabhu, disciple of Prabhupada. Seems like he was famous for talking prajalpa. So there was a situation, Upendra was cooking lunch for Prabhupada, and some devotees came back from India. It was in Melbourne. Some devotees came back from India. And of course, in those days, there was no social media, internet, or these things. So all the news were given through word of mouth, talking. So, and the whole prajalpa session was going on in the kitchen while Upendra was cooking lunch for Prabhupada. And, what's the latest news? Yes, have you heard this happened, that happened, this devotee did this, that devotee did that. And Prabhupada heard it from his room. It wasn't right next to the kitchen. So Prabhupada was very angry, calling Upendra into his room, saying, Upendra, what are you doing? Are you talking prajalpa? And Upendra said, all cheekily, is talking about other devotees prajalpa, Srila Prabhupada? And Prabhupada said, yes, this devotee, that devotee, don't waste your time, life is short. When two devotees meet, they should talk about Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, service to the Lord, and not just this devotee, that devotee. And Prabhupada was giving a whole 10-minute lecture there, chastising him heavily. And then there was another similar episode, again, Upendra cooking lunch, and there was all this talking going on in the kitchen. And again, Prabhupada called him, chastised him. And that's when Prabhupada said, prajalpa, it will destroy this movement. Yeah, so it's described in Kurma Prabhu's book. And then there was also another funny little episode that was in the US. Prabhupada was visiting. And at that time, the telex machine came out. So, of course, now, especially the young generation doesn't even know what telex is. So that there was the previous technology to fax. Maybe some of us remember fax. So previous to that was telex. And as far as I know, telex was the first technology where you could type a message in on one end, and immediately it came out at the other end, at the telex machine. So, and one of the temples had gotten such a telex machine, and devotees were very excited, showing Prabhupada the latest thing. Look, Srila Prabhupada, how this works, amazing. So, and Prabhupada, of course, he was always interested in looking at all the technology, because after all it can be all used in Krishna service. So, and then devotees asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, maybe every temple should have such a telex machine. And Prabhupada's reaction, what do you think he said? No. If every temple has such a telex machine, you will talk prajalpa all around the world. That was Prabhupada's comment. So without modern technology, at least the prajalpa is confined to a room, you know. But with modern technology, spreads all around the world. All around the world. And Prabhupada knew all that, you know. Yes, he knew. So that's why he did not like the idea of every temple having a telex machine. And sometimes I'm wondering what Prabhupada would say about Facebook and WhatsApp and all this. And I doubted that Prabhupada would walk around with a mobile in his pocket. You know, I don't think so. And I mean, in regards to phones, let me share this one little story. I think it was in Juhu, but I'm not 100% sure. Prabhupada was just moving into his new quarters. And the devotees had put a phone line into his room. First time that Prabhupada had his personal phone line. So, and all right, what happened? First night, in the middle of the night, phone rings. And somebody, oh, Hare Krishna Swamiji, how are you? You know, from America. They had forgotten the time difference, you know. So, and what did Prabhupada say the next morning? Take the phone out. No need. I don't need my phone line. You know? So I think Prabhupada would also not have a mobile phone. Yes. So anyway, yeah, we can very clearly understand this tendency to talk prajalpa is definitely so magnified through social media. So much talk is going on WhatsApp, Facebook, Telegram, what they're all called, I don't even know. Because as I shared on Friday, I live without a phone, I don't even have one. And this really protects me a lot from this prajalpa. I don't hear all this stuff going on, all this criticism happening. I don't even hear about it, only if people tell me, you know. But yeah, so it's quite a good protection, you know. And often I'm also traveling in countries where people don't speak English, so this is also good protection. You know, then sorry, I don't understand, you know. And I don't understand what people are talking, you know. Yes, so it is very helpful, you know. Yes. Yes. So today, I would like to briefly go through one chapter of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, Bhaktiloka. There is one chapter entitled The 6 Faults That Destroy Bhakti. So that refers, of course, to that verse from Nectar of Instruction by Rupa Goswami. So, and he, gives all different categories of prajalpa. And I find this very helpful, just so we remember, because often we think prajalpa, we only think of gossip or something, but there's actually so many other categories also, which we may not really be mindful of, you know. So in Bhaktivinoda Thakur starts by saying how today people become more and more godless, and therefore their talk is also godless, you know. Yes, and godless talk basically is prajalpa. And it's interesting to understand that, you know, sometimes people say, oh, always being with people it's so draining, so exhausting. But actually what's draining and exhausting is prajalpa, because especially non-devotees just talk so much nonsense, and that's what really drains one's energy. But if we are with devotees who don't talk prajalpa, but they have meaningful exchanges and discussions all centered around devotional life and pure devotional service, that is not draining, not at all. I mean, I spend almost every day like this, just meeting. I'm a people person. I feel really sorry that I cannot even make time to meet with people, because quite a few people came, "Oh, Mataji, can we talk to you? Can we meet with you?" But my schedule is so packed, I don't even have time. And this morning I'm actually leaving, and I will not come back next week. Initially we were planning that I come back, but I'll stay over at the other side just to avoid all the driving back and forwards. So yeah, I haven't even had any time for any personal meetings or in small groups or something. So yeah, I feel I haven't done justice to your wonderful community of actually offering more service to all of you, but I hope I will get another chance in the future, and then maybe I can stay a little longer, and because I realize there's so many nice devotees, so many council groups. I think I could spend quite some time here being blissfully absorbed in serving all the devotees here, Yeah. So in any case, but yeah, if we talk meaningful, topics, all based and centered around Krishna, that is not draining, that's enlivening, Yeah, sometimes I need 2 hours to wind down after an evening program because I'm so enlivened and I can't sleep, I don't even want to sleep, Yes. So that's what it is, And of course, physically we may get a little tired, but no, we don't have that experience of being drained. That comes from nonsense talk. Yes, definitely. Good to identify, Yes, so, and also interesting to understand that prajalpa, most categories of prajalpa have their roots in envy. And that's another reason why prajalpa is so contaminating. So it's not only the mundane content, but also that envy, because consciousness travels on sound vibration. That's why, kirtan led in pure devotion is so powerfully purifying, because that devotion travels on the sound coming out of the kirtan leader's mouth, So, but envious talk also travels the sound, the consciousness travels on the sound, and that contaminates our hearts. So it's the two reasons, the mundane content and the envy, which it is coming from. Yeah, and envy, very, very subtle. We often hardly even identify it. We are not conscious of it. Yeah. Yes, so the first category Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives is useless talk. And he puts into that category just novels and stories and, that are not related to Krishna consciousness. But he also puts into that category the world news. He says the newspaper, of course today hardly anybody even reads the newspaper anymore because it's all on internet, So yeah, the world news, if we get too absorbed in reading up, for quite a lengthy time, what's happening here and there and this war and that war and discussing it, what do you think, and this is all prajalpa. And in this regard, there's also a nice little episode with Prabhupada, where he was traveling on the plane with a group of disciples, and in the former times, maybe some of us remember, they used to distribute newspapers on the plane. Now they're not doing that anymore. So, and the devotees were reading the Time magazine, which is known to be a good and, socially critical magazine. So Prabhupada was saying, oh, let me have a look at this. And he was flicking through the pages, handing it back to the devotees, and was saying, actually, devotees should not read this. And then he was making a very profound statement. He was saying, it makes this world look so real. That's what it does. It makes this world look so real. And that's exactly what it does, because we probably all know, to a greater or lesser degree, there's kind of two kinds of realities. The very flickering, temporary reality of this material world, which Prabhupada calls a nonsensical stage performance. At the moment of death, curtain closes, show is over. But then there is the eternal reality, my relationship with Krishna, what's happening in the spiritual world. That's actual reality. Sometimes when I give some seminars, then sometimes people say, but Mataji, in the real world, it's like this and this and this. And I usually immediately stop them. Hang on. What do you understand under the real world? Do you mean the nonsensical stage performance? Are you calling that the real world? Or is my relationship with Krishna, is that the real world for you? So, and of course, as conditioned soul, we think what's happening outside here, as soon as we walk out of the temple room, that's the real world. And Krishna consciousness is meant to transform our vision, that we realize more and more this is just a crazy circus here, and somehow, because I still have a material body, I somehow have to function in this crazy circus and play my role here. But the real world is my relationship with Krishna, chanting the holy name, going back to Godhead, And that's what the whole process of bhakti is meant to bring about. So, but if we really are so absorbed in reading what's happening in the world, in the material world here, and we think, we take such an interest in that, that binds us to that nonsensical stage performance, and we think that's the real world. So that's why Prabhupada made this profound statement. It makes this world look so real. Yes. So, and of course, depending on our work or maybe our managerial position in ISKCON, we may have to know a few little things, what's happening. If there's a strike or this or that, traveling, we may have to know something little. But usually you know enough if you just look at the headlines of the news. You don't even have to read the whole thing, just the headlines. Okay, this was still going on. Okay, this is still happening. Okay, there's a little change. Enough, 10, 15 minutes actually, yes. So no need to study up and look at all the different websites and what are they saying and this and that, yeah. Good. So next category is arguments. Just quarreling, petty little arguments, who is right, who is wrong. Married life, oh my God, it's happening a lot. How can be a whole battlefield of false egos. So, yeah, when we get caught up in arguments, we are actually wasting the mind's strength, because the mind has so much strength, and just by arguing, we are wasting it. And where does it come from? envy, because we want to establish our superior position, that we know better, that we are right, and answering back, and so it's a useless waste of time. So devotees should really stay away from this. Yes, not getting involved, especially in married life, I always say to the ladies, so even if the husband carries on, he's all agitated about something. So it's like a thunderstorm. You know it will blow over. How long can he carry on if you don't answer, if you don't take part? How long will he carry on? So it's not much fun to argue if the other person doesn't respond, And sometimes the men say, I do the same with my wife, When she carries on, let her continue. It's like the thunderstorm. When the thunder is grumbling there, we don't, we go against it. No, we know it's just a matter of time and it blows over, not to be taken seriously. Yeah, but it requires to control the urge to speak and not give in to the false ego's demands of, answering back and justifying and defending and all this, Yeah. So then the next category is gossip, meaning we talk about others without reason, especially discussing others' characters, especially negative sides. If we discuss positive things, how the devotee is serving so nicely, what wonderful qualities he or she has, that's not prajalpa, that's uplifting. But usually, again, the envy manifests by, saying something bad about people, Yes. Discussing their bad qualities, or have you noticed, and oh yeah, he did that to me too, and all this, Yes. Yeah, so again, we try to establish our superior position, our reputation. In other words, we like to talk bad about others, saying that we don't have that quality, I am better, So it creates so much misunderstandings and conflicts and hurt feelings, and yes, I guess especially in a community like this, where everybody lives so closely together, it's a real danger, not to get into this gossiping. Somebody made the comment to me that here in this community there is not much criticism going on, so that's a good sign. Because I usually only stay for 1 week maximum in each place. And that's perfect, because within 1 week you see everybody as pure sadhu. You don't stay long enough to hear all the stuff going on there, and you move on, so perfect. But then in COVID, I couldn't travel so fast, I got stuck in Europe, coming from India, and I was planning to fly on to New York, and boom, I got stuck in Germany, which was good actually. But yeah, so I had to travel a bit slower. I still was moving around. In Europe it was not so restricted. But yeah, I stayed 4 or 5 weeks in one community, and I realized, all this gossip and talk and prajalpa going on, and criticism, and often it goes in circles, one person says something and then it goes around and everybody adds something, and then it comes back to where it started, but in an all distorted way. And what? I didn't even say that, and why did you say that? And it goes around again, So my God, never ending, Yeah, so we have to be very careful that we stay out of this. Yes, yes. Not discussing people's characters, faults, this, that, gossiping around, Yes. And I mean, maybe you also noticed how difficult it is in these modern days to keep things confidential. Actually, especially for counselors. This is a really important thing. Because a counselor is meant to give the opportunity that these counselees can reveal their hearts, and share their innermost struggles and fears. And they have to be sure that this is kept confidentially, that people don't talk about this to others. So, and this is becoming more and more difficult. And that's why often people shy away from revealing their heart to anybody, because they're simply afraid that everybody will know, So I was trying to analyze, why is it so difficult for people to keep things confidential? And I started realizing it's connected with a false ego. Because when one person shares something with us, we want to show off that we are such a special, confidential person who knows this, And then we often say, oh, did you hear? Oh, she didn't tell you. Oh, really? Oh, well, she told me. And I'm going to be the special person who tells you. But don't tell anybody, it's confidential. And then that person, oh, you didn't hear? Oh, really? You don't know? Well, I know. Well, and I'm going to be the special person who tells you, and blah, 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 blah. And then don't tell anybody, it's confidential. So it's, yes, I mean, next time when you catch yourself doing this, you look in your heart and you can see, yes, I'm trying to show off here that I'm special, that I know something that you don't know, and I'm the special person who gives you the news, Yeah, it's there. It's there. Of course, I mean, depending on our position, if we are department heads or counselors or managers, we may have to talk to other department heads, managers, counselors about one devotee's difficulties, but that's in the mood of helping him, uplifting him. How can we engage him better? And. So that's a different thing. And we can compare that with the medical field, Also doctors, nurses, they have this duty of confidentiality. They're not allowed to talk to anybody about other patients' diseases, But it doesn't mean, of course, that the doctors and nurses can't talk amongst each other. Of course, they have to discuss, So the same way, as devotees, we have to discriminate, because sometimes I came across this, that a person says, oh, sorry, it's confidential, I can't tell you. But hey, I'm here to help you to, deal with this person. So then, of course, it's like the nurse saying to the doctor, sorry, I can't tell you, it's confidential. So, I mean, that doesn't make much sense, So we have to discriminate a little bit, to whom we can talk. And, just the fact that we are a manager or a counselor doesn't mean we can talk to anybody about things, We may think, oh, I'm a counselor, I can talk about these things. But no, only to other people who are also in that leading capacity and who simply talk in a well-wishing mood and not just gossiping, Yeah. Yes, so then the next category is debating. We can understand debating to be a more serious way of arguing, And debating is definitely this mood there that we want to prove that we are right. Yes. You know, when people debate, they often are not even eager to hear what the other person has to say. You know, there's no inquiry and humility. No, there's just, I want to get my point across and I'm right. So, false ego, envy. By the way, envy, false ego, they're good friends. They always like to move around together. So, yeah, very contaminating. And very often this takes place over the internet. Maybe some of you have been in this situation. Let's imagine, let's imagine one person makes a statement about us or a situation, and many people read it over WhatsApp, Facebook, whatnot, you know. So then you feel, well, I have to somehow comment on this. If I keep quiet, everybody thinks it's true, right? So we make our little comment there. So what happens? The other side pulls it out of context, distorts it all, makes a weapon out of it, boom, shoots it back. So then again, what to do? If I'm quiet, then everybody thinks it's right. So I somehow have to say something, you know. And this goes on and on and on and on. No end. No end. And you can feel how this contamination takes place in the heart. We get all agitated and angry, and we can't even concentrate on chanting anymore, and the whole matter goes around in circles in our head. By the way, every time we find ourselves in this situation where something goes around in circles, you know, some monologue, dialogue, some issue, it always is a sure sign that the false ego tortures us. Yeah. The false ego takes us for a ride, you know. Yeah, so this debating, so contaminating. Yes. So as devotees, we don't take part in this. When we find ourselves in that situation, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Finished. Pull out. Let them carry on and on. Don't take part in it. It's useless. It is not clarifying anything, you know, because people don't want to hear and humbly inquire, but they just want to, it's just a false ego battle, you know. And I mean, I observed how this debating can be so destructive during pandemic. Oh, I don't know what it was like in India, but in Europe, there was in communities, there was these two camps, pro-vaccination, against vaccination. And both camps wanted to save the world, and they thought they are right. And, oh my God. And there was, so much debating happening on this. So many offenses created. Some communities really split in half over this debating. And I realized, yes, Prabhupada is just so right. This prajalpa, it will destroy this movement. And even a year later, the relationships were still not fixed, And gurus were attacked for posting on their Facebook page that they got vaccinated. And oh, how demoniac. And now all the disciples have to follow. And oh my God. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I didn't hear any of this. Only when the COVID was almost over and I started attending more festivals again and so on, people told me. And I was so in shock. And a similar thing, unfortunately, is also happening over this war in Ukraine, that the Ukrainian and Russian devotees, There's all these discussions and debating going on, who is right, who is wrong, and who is behind the war. And same thing, you know. Who cares? What does it matter what we think? You know, it's out of our circle of influence. Sometimes people ask me, oh, Mataji, what do you think about the war? Because I used to be very involved in Ukraine for over 20 years. So, but I don't know, you know. I don't want to, get involved in all these discussions. All I can do is pray that it will be finishing soon, you know. But who cares what I think? Doesn't make any difference, you know. And ultimately, at the moment of death, curtain closes. Who cares about the war? Is this still significant? No, absolutely not, you know. It has nothing to do with actual eternal reality. It's just part of the crazy circus here. And ultimately, Krishna is in control, you know? Not some demons there and this and that. No, ultimately it's Krishna there. You know? Yeah, so devotees have to stay away from this debating, you know? Yeah, very contaminated. So then, next one is fault finding. Finding faults. Well, we're all pretty good at that, you know. Again, it comes from envy. You know, by finding some faults in others, we want to reduce their importance. We want to establish ourselves in a superior position. So now, interestingly, our previous Acharya Sridhar Swami says, whether it's true or not, finding faults in another devotee means to blaspheme him, even if it is true that the person has a fault. And this is something we often overlook, you know. We think, well, it's true. Can't I speak the truth? Freedom of speech. This is modern India, you know. Can't I say the truth? What's wrong with that? But no, you know. Envy is behind it, and it contaminates, yes. And I mean, we can imagine a everyday situation from life in ISKCON temple. Let's say, yes, we just had a kirtan mela. So we say to our friend, or a friend says to us, oh, that was a nice kirtan, wasn't it? And then we say, yeah, it was all right, but I couldn't really relate to the tune, or I didn't like his Madanga player playing, it needs a bit of improvement, or whatever it may be. Of course, Kirtan Mela, there's only the more expert people singing, you know. So we may justify our comments by saying, well, I'm just sharing my kirtan experience. What's wrong with that? And after all, it's true that his Madanga playing needs some improvement. But no, you know, whether it's true or not, just the fact that we want to make the statement, if we look in our heart, we can detect envy there. We want to put that person down a little bit. And in other words, we say, if I had led the kirtan, I know so many nice tunes and my Madanga playing is better anyway. You know, so we want to establish ourselves in a superior position by making these comments, you know. Yeah. So that is blaspheming. Yeah. And we all know to blaspheme devotees, that's the first offense to chanting the holy name. So this is one reason why we don't make as quickly advancement as we could, you know, because we often do these things and we don't even realize, you know, because it's also subtle, right? So then another category is speaking falsehoods, fake news, spreading rumors, you know, creating some rumors about a person just to, also again, it's envy, putting him down, you know, reducing his importance, and very detrimental in a community, you know. So many conflicts, misunderstandings, and hurt feelings, offenses are created through all these rumors and talks, and you know. Yeah. And I mean, in the material world, it's a big thing. It seems like it's some people's main occupation to create fake news, you know, putting all these fake videos in the net and all this. My God, you know, yes, just to create friction, and what a perverted type of pleasure, you know. Yes, I mean, my God. So we have to really protect our communities from these tendencies, you know. So, and then another one is to blaspheme devotees. We were already touching on it a little bit. But there are obviously also other ways of blaspheming devotees than finding faults, you know. So, and then the last one is worldly talk, meaning we talk about some categories of mundane knowledge without connecting them with Krishna consciousness. You know, like if we get really carried away in discussing higher mathematics and this and that, you know, so just for the sake of a sport to show what we all know or something. So, prajalpa, you know. Of course, some categories of knowledge like biology or astrology or archaeology that can be nicely used and connected with preaching and all that. But of course, ultimately, everything can be connected with Krishna. But yeah, if we get a kick out of discussing, you know, some aspects of knowledge which are not really, and we are not connecting them with Krishna consciousness, you know. So yeah, that's another kind of prajalpa. So just to close off, I want to share one rule of Vaishnava etiquette, which often is not so much considered. People are not aware of this, and which is also leading to prajalpa and offenses. So whenever there is a disagreement or conflict on a higher level, we are not meant to get involved. We are not meant to take sides. We are not meant to discuss the matter because we don't know. We don't have the full picture of what's happening on the higher level. And again, it's beyond our circle of influence. You know, it doesn't matter what we think. So this is such an important thing, because there's always something going on in ISKCON, you know? Because, yeah, well, I mean, we are bringing the things in, you know, so there's always something going on. So if it is not in our circle of influence, it's not our matter to discuss it. Yes, because very easily, especially when we pass judgments on people, you know, guaranteed we commit offenses because we don't have the full picture. So best to just stay out of it. You know, sometimes people think, oh, we have to know everything that's going on. No, we don't. We actually don't, you know. Yes. Let us more have that mood, thank God I don't have to deal with it. You know, thank God. So let me just concentrate on my service, on reading and chanting, you know, rather than polluting our mind by thinking we have to know everything and. So whatever we have to know, eventually it will be announced through the GBCs and. You know, so, but we don't have to, you know, discuss all these things, take sides, pass judgments. Yeah, it's just actually another form of prajalpa, you know. and we easily commit Vaishnava aparad, and we destroy our faith, because this is one of the results of prajalpa. It destroys faith. Yeah, it destroys our faith in Prabhupada, in chanting the holy name, in the process of devotional service. And we can even leave Krishna consciousness, you know, because we are contaminated by all this nonsense talk and criticism and scandals and this and that, you know. Yes. So better to just really stay clear of this. Of course, if we see something alarming happening on a senior level, some abuse or something, so what's the etiquette? It's our duty to report it to that person's authority. You know, that's our duty. We have to report it. We can't just turn away and think, oh, we don't see it. If it is something alarming, dangerous, we have to report it. But then we let them deal with it. We don't follow up, oh, they're not doing anything, and oh God, I have to do something else. No, you know, we have done our job, and it's up to them to deal with it. Yes. And I mean, I've reported quite a few things over the 40 years, you know, so yes, but then that's my duty, and that's it, you know, because often it's easier to see things from a lower level than from a higher level, you know. So that's why it is the duty to report it to that person's authority, that person's counselor, that person's guru, GBC. We have so many different GBC committees for all different things, sannyas committee and this and that. So there's places where we can report it, and it's their service to look into it. And if they don't, then it's between them and Krishna. They will get the reaction. Yeah. Okay, so we have a couple of minutes left for some questions. Yes? Yes. Is the mic on? Can we switch on that mic? Yeah, all right, there's a mic coming. Okay. Just so everybody hears it. Come on.
Okay.
But it's not on.
Yes.
Is it on? Just
Yes.
speak properly.
Is
Yes.
it now audible? So, Mataji, I wanted to ask this. By the way, I'm really, really grateful for your nourishing lectures. It is my 4th lecture that I'm hearing you, and I realized it is so nourishing. I'm so grateful for this. Thank you so much. And it's so happy to see some Matajis also, you know, hear from them so nicely.
So what's the question?
Yes. Yes.
Because we don't have much time left. But I appreciate that you express that. Okay.
Yes. So Mataji, for this I had a question about, you know, Vaishnava qualities. And one of the things, a Vaishnava is like a sandalwood tree, you know, even if they are troubled, you know, they give the fragrance only. But at our level, sometimes when some devotees ask forgiveness, and it is very easy to forgive, but sometimes we see somebody is being not honest or, you know, being hypocrite, and at that time, how do we deal? And you know, it is there, of course, Krishna will deal with them. Okay. But at our level, for myself, in our heart, it was also at subtle level. I have this thought, you know, Krishna should do something, you know, should punish. But it is also revenge also.
Okay, I get the point. Well, that's why we have to have a counselor. So, you know, if we have a counselor, then we go to our counselor. We reveal our heart. And the counselor can see things from an aloof position and can see, you know, how have we contributed to this? Because we may not know. This is the whole thing, you know. As long as we have material attachments and desires, we can't objectively assess ourselves. We can't see where we stand. And that's why we need a counselor. Yes. And then that person will help us to, you know, see where we went wrong and or whether something should be done. And so, I mean, for so many problems, having a counselor really offers the solution. You know, even for marriage problems, any marriage problem can be solved if people just reveal their mind to a counselor, and both husband and wife are willing to work on themselves and accept guidance, you know. But often, yeah, they're not willing. Sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge for the men, I think, to really reveal their heart. We women are more inclined to reveal our heart and so on, but for the men, not so easy. You know, but yeah, this is so important. You know, we lead a dangerous, a risky life if we don't learn to reveal our heart. It's Guyama Kyati Prichyati, 2 of the 6 loving exchanges. It's, you know, accepting shelter, giving shelter. That's Guyama Kyati Prichyati. And it has to be done deeply from the heart. It should not just be a formality, you know. Because often in communities like here, so yeah, we have the mentorship counselor system established, but still often people, they take it as an external formality. But then when a calamity comes, they don't run to their counselor and reveal their heart, you know? Yes. And then problems build up and, you know. So yeah, let me quickly take this opportunity, because this is now the last chance for anybody who wants to get some books, because after breakfast I'm leaving. And now I don't have books left. All the books are gone already. They were gone on Friday evening, you know, 140 books, flew out like hotcakes. But now I'm taking orders. I have already so many books in order, so I will send 3-4 more boxes for everybody who wants books. So this will be the last chance, because often, you know, after a week of leaving a place, I get these emails, oh, I want 2 more False Ego books. Well, sorry, then the order is closed, because I sent a message to Mayapur, they will send the box. The boxes are on the way, then I can't fit in 2 more False Ego books, you know. So yes, please let me know now if anybody wants any more books. And just in case there's somebody who hasn't seen them yet. Spiritual culture, Krishna's divine system. This is all about the man-woman qualities, natures, that they're very different, they're not equal, they're not the same, because both are meant to play different roles. And we women are very powerful. We have this powerful energy. And Bhagavatam says we should use it to empower the men, and not to compete with them. Yeah, very insightful. When you read this book, you will be clear how this man-woman equality puts the whole human society upside down. Prabhupada said it all. And even the brahmacharis should know this, because they're preaching, you know, they have to learn to present these things in a balanced and mature way. Yes. So even though the whole book is about women, but still in many temples, they use this book as a handbook for brahmachari training, you know. And all the books are 15-hour courses, which I usually give in Mayapur. But yeah, it is good for the men, but even more important for the ladies. Any woman who wants to have harmonious relationships in her life with men, even at work, in the office, wherever it may be, you better read this book. Yes, it has improved and saved a lot of marriages already. Then, sheltering relationships. We touched upon it briefly right now. The importance of having a counselor, not just externally, you know, formality. Oh, okay, I can't get initiated without a counselor, I better accept somebody. That's not good enough, you know? Yes. So when you read this book, you will be convinced from all different angles and perspectives that without having a counselor and eventually becoming one, we actually cannot really mature in our devotional life. And we lead a risky life. My favorite example is Bharat Maharaj. His problem was he didn't have a counselor. He was all alone in the forest, even though he was on the level of Bhava. He got carried away, attached to a deer. That should be a warning. He didn't have anybody who was tapping him on the shoulder and said, hey, let the deer be deer and get back to your sadhana. You know? So even on the level of Bhava, risky life if we don't have sheltering relationships. Then the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. Title speaks for itself. False ego is so subtle. You know, in the prajalpa session we touched upon false ego, envy, and. You know, often we miss it. When we get offended, so often that happens. False ego crying for justice. You know, and I give very practical steps how to dissolve the false ego, or the different Vaisnava etiquettes which help us to dissolve and subdue it. And there's a whole chapter on chanting the holy name in japa, in kirtan. Yes, because holy name very instrumental in dissolving the false ego, but we have to know how to chant, you know. So I do conduct holy name retreats. Actually, yesterday in the evening council meeting, the idea came up to have a holy name retreat maybe next year on your farm. Yes, I would love to do that, to conduct a holy name retreat, yes. Yes, anyway, so that's the false ego book. Then entering the Grihastha ashram, how to do it, how better not to do it, why we need help with this, you know, proper matchmaking. And in India, I've said it on several programs, in India we need a little bit of help with this matchmaking, because people often only look at caste and money and nothing else, and they don't give the two involved enough time to actually talk about things. Yes, there's a whole list of over 200 topics which devotees should discuss with a cool head in the presence of a parent, a mentor, a matchmaker. You know? And that list is not my list, it's the list that they use in Bhaktivedanta Manor in London. And it's the best list I've seen. And Bhaktivedanta Manor, in case you don't know, it's a huge Indian community. So this is good for Indian background devotees. You know, it's not a German list, but it's an Indian list. Yeah, very good questions, where really so many things come up, and the two realize, oh, are we on the same plane? You know, are we on the same wavelengths? Because divorce rate in India is increasing. And I'm convinced it's connected with bad matchmaking. Because people come to me, you know, I see, and I'm thinking, God, why are they married? This can't work. And then the answer is, yeah, well, it was an arranged marriage by our parents, you know. Ah, my God, you know, yes. So, and then last but not least, family life as an ashram, secrets of success, how to actually create this culture of bhakti in our home. Important also for preparation for married life, or if people are married already, fine. You know, with so many practical things, good for preaching, you know, and there's a whole chapter on physical intimacy in marriage, how to live this principle of no illicit sex life. There's a lot of confusion over this. People don't talk about it, especially here in India, and everybody's at a loss how to make things work. So I did quite a bit of research, and I came across interesting instructions from Prabhupada, which hardly anybody knows. And it adds a whole different angle to the topic, yes. So I hope this book will make our family life even more Krishna conscious and also emotionally balanced and healthy. So if any of you want some books, I have a whole list of orders. You can put your name and phone number down, hoping you trust me and you pay me up front. And within 10-15 days, the boxes come. Priya Mataji will be in charge. She will make sure everybody gets the books they're paid for. So it's all well organized. So these 3 books are $350 each. and the first two are 300 each. Many devotees got the whole set, 1,650 for the whole set, or you can take any combination. And you can pay cash or with QR code. Okay, so since I'm leaving today, I want to thank you all very much, and special thanks to Radheshyam Prabhu for allowing me to visit. I had a great time, and I'm really impressed. What a wonderful community you have, and so many devotees living so close by. That's the secret of success. I always recommend to devotees, live in walking distance to the temple. And so many of the grihastas, they have that opportunity. And that's so valuable, so precious. You know, so I'm really impressed about your wonderful community, and I will share that with other places where I'm going. And yes, and I wish you all the very best for all your preaching endeavors and cultivating your pure devotional service. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanandi. Yeah, so and if anybody wants books, I'll be here for another 10 minutes or whatever, and then I'll be gone. Hare Krishna.